What's in episodes 1 to 25 of my Splendid Photography Explained podcast. Hi and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm McEvoy, photographer, blogger and podcaster. Yes, I am the creator and all things at the Photography Explained podcast. And this week on my blog and my YouTube channel, it's a shameless plug, isn't it? I'm shamelessly promoting my podcast. Well, why not? I don't do it all the time, do I? So in my blog, it started off, I was going to do 1 to 100 episodes. That would have been a long post. This is quite long as it is. So I just want to fly through some of the highlights of episodes 1 to 25 of the Photography Explained podcast. Now, when I say highlights, it's all fantastic stuff. Obviously, every episode is solid gold. But what should I start with? Let's start at the very beginning with what is photography to me? Well, there was an introductory episode, which I won't bore you with, but I started off with what is photography to me, because I've been doing this for a long old time now, and it's been a major part of my life, and it's something that I still love doing even to this day after all these years of doing it. And now that I spend so much time writing about it, talking about it and answering people's questions, I still love photography. So I started off with what is photography to me. Then I got into some real fundamentals. How does a camera work? It might sound obvious, but not everybody knows this stuff. Not everybody knows how a camera actually works, and I've taken it upon myself to explain these things so people can understand them. I know, someone had to do it. How to take a photo was episode 3. And again, it sounds obvious, and if you know how to take a photo, great, but not everybody does. And maybe people have been taking photos in the wrong way. So in this episode, I just tell you, how do you take a photo? It's almost too obvious, isn't it? And then, having gone for these, which I thought were really good beginnings, and I'm regretting this ever since I did it. Episode 4, what is the exposure triangle? Way too soon, Rick. What was I thinking? And I didn't do a great job of it, I'm not going to lie to you, so I've re-recorded it twice. Well, once was a straight re-record, because I wasn't really happy with my explanation, so hey, you live and learn, don't you? Episode 5, do I really need a camera in 2020? Now, this was in October 2020 I published this, and I've just done a new episode of it, which, if you haven't seen it, check out photographyexplainedpodcast.com. It's the most recent episode, and it's my best episode to date, without exception. It was a really good one. Well, slightly better than the one before it. Episode 6, what are the different types of camera? Again, just explaining some good fundamental basics. 7, what camera should I buy? Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? There's so many cameras out there. The good news is these days, it's hard to buy a rubbish camera. The bad news is there's lots of really good cameras out there. Still, you shouldn't overthink it or worry about it too much, because like I say, you really do well. Well, you won't do well. It's hard finding. I was going to say you'll do well to buy a rubbish camera, but hardly the case, is it? Anyway, that was that one. Next one, why is camera sensor size important? Might sound like an odd title, but if you think about it, the camera sensor size determines which camera system you're in. Crop sensor, full frame, micro, 4/3. And that goes into everything that you do from there on until you buy a different kind of camera. So it's a fundamental one, and it's not a fundamental one that I knew when I started out, and I wish someone had told me. I don't know why I'm doing this. What's next? How can I learn to use my new camera? How can I learn to use my new camera? It's a brilliant title, even if I do say myself. Then episode 10, I decided to do a recap. Not sure why, I was new into it. Recap, what have we learned so far? 11, 10 photography things explained quickly. Arguably less value than episode 10. And then I got back onto the good stuff. I decided what was one of the really important things is composition. So why is composition so important? Episode 12, 13, what are the rules of composition? 14, what rules of composition do I use? 15, foreground, middle ground, background. It's about composition because composition is what's in your photo, so it's very, very important. And again, nobody told me this. I wish somebody had told me this before, rather than me spending all my time buying stuff. I'd much rather have learned composition because it doesn't cost you anything and it makes your photos better. So that's why I went through that series there. And the other thing that goes through every episode of my podcast is I tell you what I do, I tell you what I know, I tell you what I've learnt, and I tell you what I think. I give you my opinions. And it's my experience that I'm giving to you. That's my unique selling point, apart from being just me, I guess, is I've got my own set of experiences which have grown over a vast number of years of photography. I'm not going to tell you how many in this. Next, take more interesting photos. Well, it's a logical follow-on from composition. See, we're still on the what's in the photo. It's not apertures and f-stops, it's what you're taking a photograph of. That's the important thing. 17, what time of day is best to take photos? Well, they say, sunrise, sunset, those that you should only take photos then. I'm an architectural photographer, construction photographer, real estate photographer. I don't take photographs at sunrise or sunset, ever. I never get the opportunity and it wouldn't work for what I do. So we need to think about this a bit broader, don't we? 18, what are the qualities of a good photo? That was a tricky one. It's really hard to define, it's hard to pin down, but I can give you some good guidelines which will help you to take more interesting photos. And it will also help you to appreciate other people's photos as well, which has to be a good thing. 19, the number one way to improve your photography. The number one way to improve your photography. Well, what do you think it is? It's get out more and take photos. It's not get out and take more photos, it's get out more and take photos. Don't just go taking hundreds of photos. Take less photos, but aim to get better ones. That is the number one way to improve yours and my photography. Next, what does exposure mean in episode 20. Let's get technical. That was the introduction, the introduction to the episode where I was going to get technical. What was I thinking? 21, what does exposure mean in photography? That was the first technical thing. 22, Merry Christmas. Christmas 2020. Wasn't great, was it? I was trying to give a little bit of festive joy in a short episode of my podcast. 23, what is aperture in photography? Straight after Christmas, we're into aperture. Hey! And then straight into shutter speed. Well, they're related, aren't they, of course? And then we get to episode 25. Happy New Year. That was Happy New Year 2021. Now, I'm not going to do 26 to 50 in the next episode of my blog because some could say that was just a lazy, cheap way of me filling up my blog with brand new content that I've already written. Would I be so obvious? No, a new post next week. I haven't decided what it is yet, which is a moderate concern, but I've got a week. I've got a week to come up with something, and I've also got a week to come up with a new podcast episode. So let's see how I get on this week. Right, I am done. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel. Please check out my blog, rickmcavoyphotography.com. Check out my podcast, Photography Explained Podcast, with its cunningly addressed website, photographyexplainedpodcast.com. Get in touch, go to either of my websites. There's lots of ways you can get in touch. And I'll say thank you again, and I hope that you will join me on another video on my YouTube channel. I've been Rick McEvoy. Thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe. Cheers from me, Rick. And now the awkward bit when the remote control doesn't stop the recording. It didn't work.